Hey friends, Sean here, Mr. Hero Support Guy, your friendly neighborhood guide to the good life. Hope you're doing well. I want to talk in this video about human needs. A lot of us don't get taught growing up what they are and why they're important. And certainly we don't really learn about the heroes in our day-to-day lives, in our history books, and on TV and in the movies that can help us to understand these needs, what they are and why they matter, and why each of us can be like a hero in our own day-to-day lives. So you'll see this little circle I have here on this screen with a blue background. I call this the wheel of well-being. And you'll notice that there's an inner part and an outer part of the circle with the letters and the white background. And then the outer part is the black background with the white letters. Each of these names is a character that you know from real life or in the movies. And in this outer white circle is a need, and it's describing how it feels when this need is present for you. And the inner circle is describing what it looks like. So if you walked into a room where people were being treated with dignity, you might notice that they are being treated with dignity. But if you're the person in the room being treated with dignity, you can tell that it feels like equality of value. So that's what heroes are, is they're people who take personal responsibility. They take their power to respond personally, right? They take ownership over the cause and effect sequence of events, over choices and the consequences of those choices. And the reason they're taking ownership over the cause and effect sequence is so that they can make sure that things are happening in a way that they think is desirable. And what heroes understand is what they need to feel a sense of internal well being. Now, before I get into this example about Martin Luther King Jr., who you've probably already heard of growing up, right? Is the famous civil rights icon. I want you to think of heroes as being people who are responding to something that's going on in their community. So, you know how we have the physical body, and sometimes the physical body gets sick, right? And in order to try to prevent sickness from happening, we have this thing called an immune system. And what happens is when our physical body encounters a threat to physical well-being, it sends out, um, these little cells. I think they're T cells or whatever, and they confront and neutralize whatever pathogen, right? The germs or the disease causing bacteria or whatever. I'm not a medical guy. Um, so, in the similar way, though, to that physical body and the physical immune system trying to stop something that's a threat from destroying physical well being, the hero is kind of like the immune system of a community, right? Or of a social group. So when there's a threat present in the community, something that threatens the community members' ability to get their basic common human needs met, then the hero is called upon or gets a prompt from inside of themselves, like their conscience, right, is their guide. And or you could say it's in your intuitive, maybe it's God or something, but they get a little prompt that there's something that needs to be addressed. And then this is where Joseph Campbell's hero's journey comes into play, and I talk about it as a problem solving process, right? So you get prompted that something's wrong, and then you go on a problem solving process, a problem solving journey, and you address whatever is wrong in order to restore well being to the community, in order to restore either emotional well being in this case, or in some other cases, you could say it's social well being. And so the story of Martin Luther King Jr. makes more sense when you think about that. there was a threat to the community, and that threat was inequality of value, right? People were being treated as if they were less valuable than other people. In particular, it was African American people being in the South being treated as if they were less valuable or had less value than the Caucasian people in the South. And so Martin Luther King Jr. and a bunch of other people as well um, intervened to improve that situation. They restored equality of value as a social experience for the community members, right? So they went out, they confronted that threat, the inequality of value, and they neutralized it. And then they were able thereby to restore equality of value. And they did that peacefully, non-violently. They did that by drawing attention to the problem, by marching peacefully and getting TVs to come and see what was going on and the way they were being treated by the white people in the South at the time. Sheriff Bull Connor was playing a villain role in that story amongst a lot of other people who were mistreating the African American people. And so you can see how that all kind of plays together. Martin Luther King Jr. was heroic in the sense that he intervened to facilitate equality of value, which was previously missing because of what was going on. And so, if somebody walked in the room, they might notice people being treated with dignity. And if you were there in the room, you would feel equally valued because of what Martin Luther King Jr. and others did to intervene and improve that social situation. So, for example, African Americans weren't allowed to eat at the same restaurant as white people or drink from the same water fountain as white people before Martin Luther King Jr.'s intervention. And afterwards, they were able to have equal access to those places and activities. So, guys, I hope that helps you to understand a little bit about one of your needs. The reason I say they're psychosocial is because they're social needs. These are needs that other people can ruin for you and you can ruin for them, right? Equality of value is a relational need, it's social. So if somebody comes over to your house and they start putting you down, their actions are reducing the availability of that social experience, right? They're causing it not to be there. So how can you address that? You have to set limits with those people. You might have to choose to not go back over to their place if they're going to act like that. You might tell them you don't like it, right? You could draw attention to that. But the point is that you're more likely to feel like I don't feel good naturally when I'm not being treated with equality of value as a human being, right? We can all have different rank structure at school and at work and at church. You know, one person's the pastor, one person's the congregation member, one person is the manager, another person is an employee staff person, one person is the parent, and one is the child, and that's fine. In the military, one person might be the sergeant, and somebody else is just the basic airman or the whatever. Um, but on a human level, they can all treat each other with equality of value. And so that's the important takeaway there. So the reason I call it psychosocial, though, the other piece of psychosocial is the word psycho, which comes from the Greek word psyche, which means mind. So think of your emotions and your thinking process all as kind of your mind, right? And your intuition. It's all kind of connected in there from just a layman's way of saying it. And so I like to think of it as like a L, that's the L shape that comes from shaking hands. When things are going well, you're shaking hands and you feel good. And then when people are like fighting, that connection is broken and you're not feeling good, right? You don't have that good rapport and you're not facilitating equality of value with one another when you're having that unhealthy conflict. All right, guys. That's just one need and one hero example, but you can see how you can intervene in your own day to day life when you see yourself and others being treated with a lack of dignity, or you're not feeling equally valued on a human level. And in that way, you can be like Martin Luther King Jr. or any of these other characters who intervene for these other needs that are listed here. Um, Hope that helps, guys. Have a great day and a great life.